Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. I'm Tristan Arlen here with my broadcast partner today, Cooper the Juice Box Melder. And Cooper, we got a lot to talk about.
We do. You know, around this time of the year, you might know we love to do a March Madness special. Well, how spring break is set up this year in March Madness, we won't get to do that. But be on a lookout for our social media to join our March Madness, all of it. Make a bracket. Will you beat us? Probably not, because we're the experts, they say. But you know what? We do have a bunch of basketball to talk about today.
We do. And, you know, speaking of Selection Sunday bringing over our spring break, you know, also keep a lookout for our socials just for maybe Cooper and I to make an appearance, maybe Instagram Live or just certain videos to talk about who we think's going to, you know, make the run. But, Cooper, speaking of men's basketball, Arkansas State, they went on a Cinderella run.
They did.
They made it to the championship. They ended up facing James Madison in the championship. They didn't win it, and they weren't close by any means necessary. They lost by a score of 91-71, and they shot poorly. In JMU, they just could not miss.
No, JMU, they played the game of their life. It felt like, you know, we called that game for Red Wolf Radio, and when you were watching, it was like, when is James Madison going to miss? When are they going to cool down? Because right from the get-go, Xavier Brown, man, 21 points in the first half for that dude. You know, we're talking about he only averages about 6.1 points per game the entire season. He comes in and drops 21 points in the first half. You know, he was hitting three after three after three, and it was just like, okay, we're only down 10 at halftime. We can make adjustments. But if you're watching that game, you could tell the Red Wolves, they just ran out of juice. Their tank was empty, and, you know, the conditioning factor, they were just gone. I mean, you saw from Caleb Fields, every shot he took was coming up short. He left it all out on the floor. Yeah,
Caleb Fields, he left it out on the floor. But, you know, we saw some kind of spark of hope from Isaiah Nelson. Of course, you know, he got cooked a lot inside, but he was still able to kind of make certain defensive plays to where if he gets sort of a more arsenal look from his defensive game in the summer and maybe early fall, that way when non-conference schedule rolls around, he'll be a more rounded player. I don't see why Isaiah Nelson, you know, possibly can't win Defense Player of the Year for the Sun Belt or even a Player of the Year, considering he's one of the youngest players on the team. But just talking about that team a little bit, I mean, they're only losing Caleb Fields, and they're adding a lot of talent in the offseason. I almost called it free agency. My mind's still on the NFL with how crazy that's been. But they're adding a lot of talent. Josh Hill, one of the power forwards that they added early while we were gone on our break, you know, he's been an electric player that we've seen. We've kind of been watching over the course of this season and off season, but you know, like I said, they're only losing Caleb Fields. Terrence Ford's going to be back off of his injury redshirted season. You know, of course, they're going to lose Malcolm Farrington, who is kind of pivotal in the three-ball shooting. Avery Phelps will still be on the roster. And, you know, it's going to be kind of a shift of times. But, Cooper, my main question for you is, after year one, or year zero, as some may say, for Brian Hodgson, are the men on the right path?
I mean, yes, they are. You're talking about a head coach coming in his first year. His very first year, bringing in the guys. He convinced Caleb Fields, Isaiah Nelson, Terrence Ford, convinced all those guys to stay and say, you know what, if you buy in, just let me do what I have to do. If you buy in, I will help you succeed. And, you know, started the season, it was like, all right, where's the success we were all talking about? Where is this success that Brian Hodgson was going to bring? And then we saw it. We had a rough, bad loss against James Madison, lost 74-71, and then we went on a run. And we got to the 4th seed, got the double bye, made it all the way to the championship game. And so year one, if everyone sticks around, we'll have the most experienced team in the Sun Belt, in my opinion.
Right. Well, Cooper, we're going to take a step away. You know, hopefully the men next year can be a little bit of a swag money team. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some players leaving the Arkansas State women's team in the transfer portal. Stick around to hear on Red Wolf Roundtable.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
Thing or
Instagram Live.
Yeah.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV, and now we're going to talk about the women's team and kind of the point of the year where I hate talking about college athletics. The transfer portal are stealing the players from Arkansas State. Myself, I'm considering entering the portal to go wherever some of these players go because I love talking about them. But Cooper, we had two key players from the women's team enter the portal this morning. One last night, one this morning, and that's Malin Wilkerson and Lauren Pendleton.
Yeah, you're seeing it now. Malin's thanking everybody. She was a key player when Izzy went down. She took over the point guard role. She was really good from the three-point land. She was a smaller guard, but she stepped up when she needed to.
Yeah, and look, we're not going to dog these players for leaving. But you talked about stepping up, and the numbers, they just don't show that.
Yeah.
I mean, she averaged 6.9 points a game. She had 1.6 assists, and she shot 30% from three-point land. But coming off a year where last season, not this season that just ended, but the season prior, when she was kind of shooting really well from beyond the arc, and now this past season she kind of struggled. It's one of those things where, yes, I wish her the best and wherever she goes, but realistically, I don't think she adds anything to any team unless she goes to another Sun Belt school.
Yeah.
I mean, she could go somewhere like a Texas State or a Troy, but I just don't realistically think her or another player that entered the portal, Bree Sutton, are going to add anything special. But Lauren Pendleton also entered the portal.
This one hurts.
This one really hurts. And Lauren, she thanked Arkansas State. She's been on the show with us talking about the team. She's helped out with the CMP kind of degree field. She's helped Mr. Sullivan. She's done a lot while she was here. And, she averages just about 12 points a game last season for her career. And she does a lot of good things. She did a lot of good things in her time, but this is one of the players that I think realistically, we were talking before the show, and I really think that this one, Lauren Pendleton, she could be a pivotal bench player on a Power 5 school.
Yeah, she could be one of those players. We talk about it all the time. Defensive mindset, and I hate that she entered the portal, but the thing that's given me hope right now is we saw players like Caleb Fields, Isaiah Nelson, they all hit the portal last year and they came back. So I feel like maybe they're putting their name out right now to see, okay, what offers can I get? Because with the college athletics right now, the NIL is taking over. They want to see, okay, I've been here 3-4 years. I've redshirt 4 years. I have one more year left. Where can I go to get my name out there? And I feel like with Lauren, she's a really good player, and she's going to get offers. So I hope Coach Des can do whatever it takes to keep her around.
Right, and the NIL aspect of things, Coach Saban said it best when he was talking to some of the congressmen, and we've had conversations about it as well. But I just think the days of being a team player are over in college athletics. As much as it hurts to say, because that's kind of what college athletics was built on and kind of some of the pageantry of college athletics, I think those days are over with how NIL is. I mean, Coach Saban, former Alabama head coach before he retired, arguably the greatest college football head coach of all time, said after the bowl loss to Michigan in the Rose Bowl, some of the players were only asking, hey, am I going to start next season? Hey, how much money can you give me? So I think those days of the era of, hey, I'm going to go to the school for 4 years, give everything I have to a certain university are over. I hate that. I wish, some of the laws were changed within that so we could see more of that come back. But, speaking of these players that are leaving, Cooper, I want to ask you this. Do you think this is a coaching issue, or do you think there's other problems within the women's team?
I'm not going to really, I don't know. I can't say it's a coaching problem or anything like that, because in all that matters is we really don't know what's going on in that locker room.
Right.
I mean, as time goes on, I feel like we could be like, all right, there has to be something up. But it's to the point where, like you're saying, the NIL, they're taking over. And what really hurts us about losing these veteran players is we're talking about in the Sun Belt tournament loss the women had. If everyone came back, they would be in a very, very experienced team. We're looking at 5 or 6 seniors on that team who's been here for the past 3-4 years. They could make a run. If you're looking at a team like Villanova, yes, they've had players like Jalen Brunson come out of there, but when they're winning it all in March Madness, it's because they're just such an experienced team. They have a great head coach, and you have players that have been there all 4 years, and then when you have a bunch of juniors and seniors, that's when you really see them come alive and start making those March Madness runs.
Right. Well, and you got to look at kind of a handful of players that Coach Des has lost since she became the head coach here. I mean, Leilani Ogman, she went to Troy. Jade Upshaw, who arguably should have been that number 2 this season, she left and went to Central Arkansas. They're currently playing for their conference championship coming up. Shout out Jade Upshaw. Hope Central Arkansas wins that one. And, now Lauren, now Malin, and it's only a matter of time before, maybe the possibility of an Izzy Higginbottom goes into the portal. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not want Izzy Higginbottom going into the portal. But, coming from Missouri, Izzy Higginbottom's always been that name that she's played so well that people are kind of throwing her name out there saying, okay, she's going to go to the portal. She's going to see what she's worth. She's going to see all this. So I'm interested to see what happens kind of the rest of this offseason, maybe early next season, and, trying to see some of the recruits that Coach Des and them get and maybe some transfers that they get. But, Cooper, when we come back, we're going to really dive into what losing Izzy Higginbottom, if she does decide to go into the portal, would mean to this Arkansas State Red Wolves women's basketball team right here on Red Wolf Roundtable.
Say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option. And you cannot stop it. Nah, you cannot stop it.
ASU-TV, covering all your favorite sports. From Red Wolf Roundtable to West Side football and more, ASU-TV has you covered. Tune in now to ASU-TV for news and coverage on these sports and more.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable here on ASU-TV. Now, Cooper, we talked about the possibility of Izzy Higginbottom entering her name once again into the transfer portal, but I want to start this segment off with this.
Okay.
How has transferring affected Arkansas State?
We've really taken a toll on it because we are a Sun Belt school. I mean, it has helped us, but it also has hurt us. We've seen great players that we've had just get up, leave, they're like, you know what, I feel like I can be better somewhere else. I'm going to go enter the transfer portal, this, and that. And, it all comes down to a coaching aspect. We've seen Coach Hodson, Isaiah Nelson, Caleb Fields, they could have gone somewhere to a bigger school, no doubt about it. But Coach Hodson was like, you know what? I'm going to keep you here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where it's, God, it's, I don't know. It's one of those, for anybody's wondering, I'm breaking the fourth wall here. Mr. Sullivan's in there making us laugh and in our ear. Just breaking the fourth wall for everybody watching. But it's one of those things where, you know, it's harmed us, it's helped us, but in the long run, it's going to harm us even more because, you know, we talked about NIL. And just looking at the landscape of NIL, Arkansas State and Jonesboro, realistically, outside of the Impact Club, does not have as much NIL sort of landscape. I'm going to use that term, landscape, for players to want to come, get their bag, and play for the Red Wolves. But just looking at it from a women's basketball standpoint, if Izzy Higginbottom enters the portal, and this is kind of where I want to go when we dive into what this would mean to the Red Wolves roster. If Izzy Higginbottom does enter her name into the portal, and I say does because nothing's official yet, if she enters the portal, should the fans of Arkansas State be worried that next season there's going to be a whole new coaching staff?
If she enters the portal, I don't think there will be a new coaching staff. I think it would be unnecessary because if Izzy leaves and then now you're like, okay, what are we going to do? And then you get a whole new coaching staff, then you're looking at more players leaving. You're looking at having to bring in an entire new roster if that does happen. So if Izzy does leave, yes, Arkansas State women's basketball will probably be at an all-time low because you're taking away someone who's averaging 22 points per game. I don't see them making any changes in the coaching staff because I feel like that would just hurt everything else because you have such an experienced team. You'd have to bring in a bunch of sophomores, freshmen. You'd have to do a whole new recruiting strategy. So I just don't see, even if Izzy does leave, I still think Coach Rogers will still be the head coach.
Right, and you know, we talk about Izzy entering her name into the portal, but I think from a standpoint of what that would mean to the culture of Arkansas State, I think that would kind of fit into the stigmatism that Arkansas State's just kind of a stepping stone school to where you could come, play a year, play 2 years, and show maybe a bigger school that, hey, this is what I'm worth. I can come play for you guys. But let's be honest here, okay? And this is going to hurt to say because I'm a big fan of Izzy Higginbottom's game. But realistically speaking, Izzy Higginbottom could not get valuable minutes on an SEC level school. She could not get ACC. Here's why I say this. Here's why I say this. Okay, why I say this. Yes, she was top 10 in scoring in the Division I with, you know, Caitlin Clark, you know, all those players. But she's already been in the SEC once when she was at Missouri her freshman year. Now, I'm not saying her game hasn't gotten better since her freshman year, but what I'm saying is this. When you come from a Sun Belt school like Arkansas State where you're averaging almost 30 points a game before your injury, and then you get hurt on your finger, one of the most valuable parts of your body if you're a basketball player, and then you go to an SEC school, playing the likes of South Carolina, LSU, you know, even sometimes the University of blank, because I'm not going to say that because I know certain people around here will not like me saying that. I just don't think in the era of college basketball on the women's side where we are right now that realistically she would be getting 30 minutes a game. She would be getting 20 minutes a game. I think if she goes to an SEC school, while yes, she would still score efficiently, I think just looking at it from the outsider point of view, now I would have to go into a deeper dive, talk about this a little bit more maybe next week, but I think just from a grand scheme of things, looking at it just off the cusp, not going into detail, I think she does not get 5 minutes per game on the SEC bench.
You're saying
don't think.
That is wild.
I don't think
that. No, she would come in.
Listen.
No.
I love Izzy Higginbottom. I love her game. I love her scoring.
Hold up.
But I don't think she is ready for the SEC, especially with her injury issue.
I think she'll be A-okay. You're telling me, yes, she has injury problems. You go to SEC school, they have all the medical staff in the world. They have literally everything times 10 than what we have here. She would come in there. I guarantee she would start. She wouldn't play 40 minutes a game because she won't have to. But her scoring numbers, they'll probably drop a little bit. But
Drop a little bit's an understatement.
No, they would. She would still average 17-plus points per game, and I'm certain about it. Her assist numbers would rise. You're telling me she had no help here. If we're being completely honest,
she scored 30 points every game.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It would drop from like 25 to 17. She would average at least 8 assists a game. You're telling me she'll have so much more help, averaging, you say, probably 25, 30 minutes a game. Her assist numbers would go up. She wouldn't get injured because she's not carrying the team on her back every single game. And she would provide valuable minutes, great minutes, and would be one of the top players on a team.
Now listen, hear me out.
I'm not saying go to South Carolina.
I know, but hear me
undefeated,
out.
but-
Hear me out though. Look at Haley Van Lith. Went from Louisville to LSU. She was arguably top 5 player in the world before she transfers to LSU. She transfers to LSU. What is she now? She's barely a top 5 scorer on the team. Angel Reese has led that team all year, and Angel Reese has had injury issues as well. And just look at South Carolina. Look how many dogs they got on that team. I do not think realistically Izzy Higginbottom even scallops to the that's a new word of the day. But I don't think that she really gets into the rotation where she can make a dent in the rotation.
That's wild.
Now listen. I want her to do well, but I want her to stay here at Arkansas State to where she can still average 30 games.
So what you're telling me,
30 points a game in the Sun Belt is different from 30 points in the SEC.
Yes, I'm saying her points would drop a little bit, but she wouldn't have to do everything. She would be able to sit at the 3-point line, set place
3-point line, she's not even a 3-point shooter.
She was the best 3-point shooter on her team.
Yes, because Malin Wilkerson didn't know how to shoot a 3, and then Lauren Pendleton was shooting from the logo every possession.
I'm just saying. You're looking at
and then Anna Griffin, she could hit a 3 to save her life.
If you look at it, she had to do everything for this team. You let her get some weight off her back and literally just focus on, all right, I have this certain role in this team instead of having to do every single role, she would be just fine. I guarantee she goes, I will say it, if she went to the University of Fayetteville,
oh God,
she would start for that team. I don't care. Now, she may come off the bench at a South Carolina LSU, but those are the top 2 teams in the country right now. You're telling me she goes to mid-level SEC school, mid-level ACC school, she would be just fine. She would start. I don't care about it. She would definitely start. She would average 25, 30 minutes a game, and she would be just fine.
Listen, I'm not saying she would do terrible, but I'm not saying she would.
You said she wouldn't even get in the starting lineup.
Listen to me, dang it. I'm not saying she would do terrible, but I'm saying she's not getting averable minutes on an SEC level school. She is not.
Yes, she is.
Just because she scores 30 in the Sun Belt doesn't mean she's scoring 30 in the SEC because those are 2 different conferences, 2 different defenses.
I never said she would.
Every single year we see this. Every single year we see a Sun Belt level player think, oh, I'm doing this in the Sun Belt. I'm going to go to the SEC.
I never said.
And they don't do good.
I never said she would go to the SEC and average 30. I said she would drop about 17 points per game, 8 assists. She would provide valuable minutes, 25-plus minutes a game. You can't tell me
that's like saying
different.
Isaiah Thomas is going to come out of the G League and the NBA and go to the best team in the league, which
you're
is the
talking
Denver
about
Nuggets.
Isaiah Thomas, who's probably like 5'5", a leprechaun, going out there and playing with a leprechaun that's going to play against 7-foot giants. No, you're talking about Izzy, who's a great basketball player. I mean, she would be just fine.
Well, Easton's telling us to go to break, so we're going to have to conclude this one. We'll have this later. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the weekend series against Louisiana for Arkansas State baseball. Stay tuned.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
Welcome back to Red Wolf Roundtable. Now it's time to talk about the weekend series against Louisiana. Yeah, it's time to talk about the weekend series against Louisiana. And Cooper, seems like the Red Wolves have been playing Louisiana a lot. In the past month.
It really has been. I mean, we're seeing now. A-State, they're almost batting 300. ERA has shot up big time, almost to 6. Get on base about 40% of the time and 22 home runs. And, after a hot start from Arkansas State, they've kind of cooled off and go on a little skid. Got run ruled against Little Rock on Tuesday, and then Wednesday they go to Memphis. They get beat 16-7. Just big-time losses for the Red Wolves.
Yeah, and then on the opposite side, Louisiana, they come into this game after a midweek versus Louisiana Tech where they were able to beat the Bulldogs on the road. But, Cooper, just looking at the first conference baseball game for these two schools, what do you expect maybe some keys for the Red Wolves to win this ball game tonight?
It's got to be pitching. It's going to have to start with starting pitchers. We've seen it where our starter, we're like, all right, let's get things going. He comes out in the first couple innings and just gets shelled. He gives up 4 to 5 runs, and now we're having to go in our bullpen early. And in a 3-game series, you want your Friday guy. That's your best pitcher is pitching on Fridays. You want him to get you at least 5-6 innings of good playing. You're seeing it now. Jelly Vanderlilly's going to be starting on Friday. He's supposed to be our top guy, and so you're hoping to see him to be able to provide good innings. And then you're seeing Colin Maloney. He's taken over Arlen Butts for the Saturday. And then Dylan Hine, he's been a solid Sunday pitcher. But it's all going to start with really just Jelly Vanderlilly providing good minutes.
Yeah, and Jelly, I had a brief discussion with him the other night. And he was talking about just the certain aspect of pitching. And he really feels like that first game against Eastern Illinois where they scored so many runs, it was one of those things where he was kind of concerned because he knew he could do better. But the point of emphasis is tonight's really going to be kind of a proving ground for this Arkansas State baseball team because they've started off hot, the hottest they've been in a while, and now they're getting into Sun Belt Conference plays where we've usually seen the Red Wolves kind of have a little bit of issues. But it's very interesting because I really think this team has what it takes to maybe not necessarily win the Sun Belt per se, but I think they have what it takes to kind of give Southern Miss a run for their money because they are a very talented baseball team.
Southern Miss and James Madison, those are two teams that are going to be a problem in the Sun Belt. It's going to start today, and it's going to be very interesting because anything can happen today. The weather's been bad. The field's going to be wet. The ball's going to be rotating a little bit different, bouncing off the wet grass. If there's a game you got to win, you got to start 1-0 in conference because all these non-conference games, all the games you played up till right now really haven't mattered. I mean, they matter record-wise. You want to have a good record, and you're looking at it, the record's not bad, not terrible, middle of the pack. It really starts now. If you can start off 1-0, you just build off of that because James Madison and Southern Miss, those are the teams you're going to be having to play to get to Omaha or just even hosting a regional, getting into a regional somewhere.
Right, and really the fielding too is going to be a big issue for the Red Wolves. I mean, just looking at from Game 3 against Eastern Illinois, Austin Jaslov out in right field, he had at least 3 fly balls that he could have caught, and he just didn't. It bounced right behind. He went to the warning track, but I'm very interested to see how the Red Wolves kind of shift from the non-con schedule to the conference schedule because, it's only ESPN Plus. I hear the play-by-play guy tonight. It's one of the up-and-comers in the sports broadcasting world. And, yes, I am going to talk about myself like that. If you didn't know, I will be calling the game tonight. Wish you were there, Coop. But I think, real quick, what's your prediction for the game?
Prediction, I feel like, for the Red Wolves, Tristan, you're not allowed to predict.
I know.
It's kind of like College Game Day where they're like, Kirk, you're calling this game. Shut your mouth. So shut your mouth. But, you know, I feel like it's going to be a rocky start. I feel like it's going to be a close game. I feel A-State's going to get down early. They're going to probably be down maybe 4-0, and we're going to be thinking, all right. And then here come the rally Red Wolves, and they're going to end up winning 6-4.
And the control room, Mr. Sullivan just told me, said that the Red Wolves win tonight 5-4.
So 6-4, 5-4, we're going with the red hot Red Wolves.
Garrett, Garrett's our cameraman today. Garrett, do you have a prediction for today's baseball game? 7-4 Red Wolves is what Garrett calls for the game, and he's actually going to be our third base camera tonight. So if you see some good shots, that's who your camera op is. But
and if it's bad, blame him.
yeah, I mean, you never know. If he does bad, you know who to go off on. Not the rest of the crew. But Cooper, you know, real quick, what are you really looking forward to this weekend?
Just good baseball. I need to see solid pitching from starters and our bullpen. We need to get that ERA down.
EA Sports is in the game.
Yes.
Well, real quick, one of the
It's not basketball time. It's baseball time.
You gotta do your pom-poms for the Red Bulls, ladies and gentlemen.
Go out and cheer at the top.
On to victory. Brave team, you're second to none. Let's make this game history, like all of the others we've won. Fight, fight, fight with all your might, so that the world may see what that red WOLVES spells victory.
Stay!